And so Sonic Heroes is more than worth a playthrough. A playthrough. Not 4. So here's one of the biggest problems with Sonic Heroes and why I assume no one finished this game. To see the final part of the game, titled The Last Story, you have to collect all the Chaos Emeralds and also beat every single one of the 4 stories. The problem with this is that the levels basically remain the same between all 4 teams, so playing all 4 of them is kind of like eating too much of your favorite food. Now literally like 12-year-olds have probably learned about this, but I'm going to explain it anyway. This is what's called the point of diminishing returns. First playthrough, you get your perfect fix, very, very happy. Next, maybe you shouldn't have had those seconds, you're not feeling as good. By the end, you're puking, and maybe that's disgusting, but that's literally science. To elaborate a bit more on the repetition here, Team Rose, for instance, being the easy team, basically just takes the Team Sonic levels and cuts them off a lot earlier. So like, sure, the story is easy to breeze through, but if you just played Team Sonic's playthrough, do you really want to sit down for another 2 to 3 hours just to play an easier version of the same game you just played? You might say, yeah, that's fine. Imagine that 90% of people who bought this are casuals and don't care about Sonic and absolutely wouldn't have even wanted to play this again. Team Dark, being the hard mode of this game, basically just takes Team Sonic's levels and makes them lengthier and with more generic goon enemies. Team Dark is probably my favorite cast of characters and feels the best to play, but the problem is their levels run so long. Sonic Heroes is already kind of infamous for having some of the lengthier levels in the series history up to this point, so imagine that after 2 or 3 playthroughs. And then there's Team Chaotix. Look, Team Chaotix is either super fun or super tedious on any given level. There is at least some variance in this playthrough compared to the 3 other teams, but at the end of the day, you're still basically playing the same levels as you did before. In fact, some levels of Team Chaotix are get to point A to point B. You can disguise this under collecting crabs or whatever all you want. It doesn't fool me, and it clearly didn't fool the thousands of fans who think this game is the second coming of Satan. And just a brief aside, but Team Chaotix has some of the lowest points in this entire game, honestly. There are some fun collection missions, like grinding rings at a casino, or finding and killing the 3 golden turtles. You know, pretty reasonable stuff. And then on the flip side, there's missions like killing every robot in a level, or blowing out every single torch in the Mystic Mansion. Whoever thought this was a good idea, I have to question their sanity. So basically the failsafe for Team Chaotix is if you miss one of these collectibles, it has a function that takes you back to the start of the level so you can do it all over again to find the one that you missed. Doesn't that sound so much fun? You can look at this overall system in 2 ways. For one, most casual players probably won't care about seeing the final story. It ties in very specifically to the series lore, and really, if you're not super invested, it's probably not worth going for anyways. Hell, I barely even cared and never went for the last story outside of this review. And if you look at the achievements for a game, even like GTA or something, look how many people don't make it past the first mission. And you're expecting the players to beat 4 stories? I feel like each individual story by itself is a really good experience, depending on what you want out of this game. I could see a more relaxed player playing Team Sonic or Team Rose, beating the string of levels and feeling satisfied with that. The stories on their own are a bit unfinished, but they wrap up sort of nicely, and it's a decent length of time. It is of my opinion that the best way to play Sonic Heroes is just play your playthrough of choice and don't worry about the other 3. And it's still a few hours, just like the classic 2D Sonic games. Like, in 2003, this would have been overpriced for sure, but just legally obtain this game, insert smiling emoji. But on the other hand, having the final act and credits of a video game be locked behind something so irritating and time consuming just feels horrible. What I think would have been optimal is just maybe assigning each team a number based on difficulty. If you beat Team Dark Story, you instantly have completed 2 through 4 to avoid repetition. If you want an easier time with this game and feel like you need to ramp up to Team Dark's difficulty, you can start with Team Sonic or Team Rose, or just have it be 2 out of the 4 stories in general, or like a point system. Team Dark is 3 points, Team Rose is 1, Team Sonic and Chaotix are each 2, and you need to get to 4 or 5 or whatever. Like, look, you could probably point out flaws with the system I just brought up, but guess what? I'm not a game designer. It's not my job to come up with these things. So don't blame me for that. Blame Sega for causing the problem in the first place. It's pretty clear by now that Sonic Heroes was absolutely rushed. You can tell because the word Sonic is in the title.